Hi everyone, new journal today, journal 92. I know this is going to be one of my favorites, if not my favorite that I've ever done, because it's a sequel to two previous favorites. I mean, my absolute number one and like a top 10 for me. Let's start with the top 10. Journal 81. I talked about the difference between real art and then what I called in that one, my coinage was ultra-processed arts. And sort of the difference there in commercialization, things like that. And my favorite journal of all time was journal 88, more recently. And that one, I was talking about music, which I will a lot in this one too. This one I talk a lot about music. But in that one, it was about music and fantasy stories and how I usually dislike it. I usually dislike when there's a song in a fantasy book because it's like that, like it's not a real song. But in that journal, in journal 88, in the video, I debuted a song that I wrote with my friend Aaron Lum, and it's called Some Birds Return in that video, or Home. It's Rorik, it's his song. In the book, he calls it Home. Everyone else calls it Some Birds Return. That really should be its name. Rorik is just unwilling to change it. In this one, we do it the same thing. Lum and I write another new song. This one is called Wrath, and it exists in the book, in the upcoming book, book 1, part 2, and in future books too. And it's an important song, so obviously it's going to exist in real life. Lum and I came together and wrote it. I'm going to show our versions, just like in Journal 88, where I begin with my cheap demo Zoom recording, and then Lum and I each do our own version based on that, kind of independently based on that. I'll show all of those to you soon. Stay tuned. I'm going to read the journal first. But before I read the journal, just know that this isn't me being like objective and factual and whatever. This is just an idea I had about music and about commercialization, and it's just my opinion. It's okay if you have a different opinion. You know, I'm a professor, and in the last decade, I've probably overseen 30 theses, and this isn't that. You know, this isn't like a comprehensive, objective, critical sort of like appraisal or deep dive into, in this case, contemporary art. Again, this is just my thoughts. I talked with my brother a ton about this. Lum and I have had a bunch of conversations. It's just a fascinating topic, and so I put my opinion down. Let me read that for you now, and then we'll get to the songs. Journal 92, Friday, February 14th, 2025, Grunge Fantasy. Hi, everyone. When the U.S. Census Bureau counted me among America's hapless youth, I detested corporations. I didn't really know anything about fiduciary duties or shareholders or the importance of Delaware, but I was learning to reason through alternative music, especially grunge. And all my grungy heroes were anti-corporation. They were anti-lots of things. Anti-authoritarianism, anti-abuse of power, anti-rich guy profiting from the poor guy, anti-pretending not to be that guy, anti-conformism, anti-insincerity of every variety, and they were super anti about consumerism and commercialization. Naturally, a young, impressionable Courtney adopted a similar set of cynicisms. In time, he grew into an old, introspective, tax-paying Courtney. Along the way, he learned a little about fiduciary duties, shareholders, and Delaware, and he lost some of that disaffected angst characteristic of 90s teenagers, but not much. And he retained every single one of his aunties, considering them the core moral tenets of his generation. They were so deeply encored in us that we held our heroes to the same standard. If a band succumbed to the system with overproduced, radio-ready, mass-market-friendly songs, the 90s equivalent of clickbait, they were ousted as sellouts, the 90s equivalent of cancellation, because they violated the corest of our core principles. Art without sincerity is not art at all. Today, when I listen to new music, I wonder, what the fuck happened? Shameless commercialism is the entire basis of the enterprise. Cultural icons are manufactured in flashy Walmart packaging. Their art is assembled in factory lines in which a dozen industry employees each fuse their tiny part onto the consumer product that was wholly designed by a corporate committee's market research. More than 20 songwriters affixed appendages to Beyoncé's Alien Superstar before it was ready for Superstore distribution. It's an industrial sing-along, algorithmically engineered for mass consumption. Simple, familiar structures, simple, familiar melodies, simple, familiar lyrics that avoid sensitive topics, while also including simple, familiar, faux, edgy vocabulary. That's what succeeds today. Beyoncé isn't the exception, she's the rule. Anyone who breaches those pop media precepts risks making actual art, which contravenes the purpose of production, maximizing revenue. Consumers don't seem to mind. Today's Census Bureau youth express a sense of disillusionment about the world and their role in it. At the same time, they revere the corporations that are stifling them, especially those in the richest, most monopolistic, authoritarian, power-abusing, overtly consumeristic industries such as big tech. Kids don't merely know the names of the executives, they idolize them. Idolize is too weak a word. Even heroism falls short. This is a form of worship, which looks a lot like Stockholm Syndrome, which explains why they feel so alienated and broken, medicating their misery at the corporate teat. Even I feel more disenfranchised than I did as a newly teened grunge devotee in 1993, back when my culture was at its peak. At least in that age, our angst had an enemy. The artists were fighting against corporate propaganda. Today, art is the most lucrative branch of the machine. What better time is there to restore the old grunge ideals? And literature feels like the right medium to do it, precisely because of how few readers there are today. Seattle would have never been able to harbor the culture it did if it wasn't 1,000 miles from the nearest executive office. So I say we should use our invisibility to create a whole Seattle, collective noun, of grunge fantasiists. Okay, so that was my journal. Again, it's totally okay if you have conflicted views here. Your opinion differs. I invite you to share. Let's be civil about it, but talk about this. I just think there is something fascinating here and something real. Whether I landed on the reality of it in an objective way, I don't know. But again, my brother, he's a year and a half older than me. And Lum is like a season younger than me. And a little bit older than my brother, a little bit younger than Lum, seems to be this generation of its own. There's this even when Lum and I had just turned 27. Lum was still 26, and we wrote this song together. It's Lum's song. I wrote most of the words, but everything else. He came up with the name of the song and the idea and what it should be about, played every single note, and the song is Lum's. I just, contributed a bunch of words. It was called XYZ, and we were writing about our generation and this concept of generations and how we seem to be this little interstice between them. We were practically little kids at the time and noticing that there was already generational undergrowth beneath us. We weren't the ground level culture anymore. And that undergrowth was hip high. And then right above our heads was Gen X. We weren't part of them either. And so we weren't the brambles or the leaves. We were just this narrow little in between of a generation. And I think because we grew up with technology at the advent of what would be modern technology. In elementary school, the original Nintendo comes out, Sega versus Nintendo and all the stuff, and the advent of PlayStation, all that. The home computer, the internet. My first eBay purchase was in 1997. I think it was an r.e.m thing. It was like a promo poster for an r.e.m thing, whatever. And so this is like, I don't know, a junior in high school or something like that. And so the advent of technology, but technology didn't define us, I don't think, as much as music did. Music gave us this lens through which to see the technology and the changing world and our role in it. So I really do think there is this in-between generation that's the grunge generation that is us, and it's not very many people. Maybe I'm wrong about all of this, but that's just the idea that I had as I was writing. Now let's get to the songs. The song, right, is called Wrath, and the first thing I'm going to show you is my Zoom recording. This isn't me performing, right? I had just finished writing it, like 30 seconds before. This is basically my first full playthrough, because I'd come up with a melody and I was humming. I'd play through and like hum it and stuff, but then coming up with the words, I was writing them out, and then I'd kind of play that part and saying like, this doesn't, those syllables don't work. They sort of crash in the wrong ways. And so the consonants don't line up right and whatever. And so I'm continuing to change the words and change the words. And once I had it where I thought like, this is probably the song, I hit record. And so it's probably like my first actual playthrough. So I hadn't practiced. I certainly hadn't memorized the song. And so I sing off key. I actually missed one of the lyrics completely. By the time I should have started singing, I already missed the start of it. I'm like, I'm not going to try to squeeze this in. I'll just pick up at the next lyric. So I play it pretty badly, but this is what I sent to Lum. And I said, let's write a song based on this. And then I did it. I went and did like a studio recording of it. And Lum also did his version. But I'm going to share with you this first. I'm going to share with you the Zoom recording so you can see the writing process coming up with a song in its kind of crude form. I explained this in the Some Birds Return video too, where I'm staring at the screen because that's where the lyrics are. Again, I don't have the song memorized, and I just finished writing it. I hadn't memorized this, and so I'm reading the lyrics as I go. So when I'm just like staring at the screen, that's not me performing. That's me trying to get my eyes on the actual words so I can play it. So, okay, here is the Zoom recording. fire, sparks leave, careless with our memories. Only I remember me. Only I remember me. All right, that was Wrath, and that was my cheap demo recording of Wrath, the exact same file. What you just watched is what I sent to Lum, and I said, will you write your own version of this song? And then I too did it. There are leaf blowers right now that are driving me crazy. It's like dueling blowers outside. So each neighbor are just blowing them at each other and having like a leaf off. When was the last time you saw a rake? Like when human locomotion like manipulated nature's, recyclables. Okay, I'm going to try to stay focused, but if you see me straining to maintain my attention here, that's my excuse. Anyway, so in the video, you can see I'm playing at the 5th fret. There's a capo at the 5th fret, and that's important. There's symbolism there, and I did the same thing with Some Birds Return. And all of these songs in this series are capoed at the 5th. That's a number of the East. All Easterners have 5-letter names. There's 5 books in the series. There's an importance there, but I'll leave it at that. Also in these songs, rarely do I do like a repeating chorus. Everyone loves that sing-along chorus. That's basically the song that people think about. And the verse is just like, all right, let's take a breather. All right, if you caught your breath, let's do a chorus again. And just doing the exact same thing over, and then we'll take a breath, and we'll get back to the chorus, and we'll do the exact same lyrics again and again. And like, I've never really connected with that. I think the soul of a song is in the verse. I think the verse, that's like the beating heart of a song, is in the verse. But you can't just go verse, 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 the end. And so you need to break that up a little bit. And to me, that's what a chorus is like a palate cleanser. Think about, so like in the Beatles catalog, these leaf blowers. But like the Beatles catalog, you have stuff like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Strawberry Fields Forever. Those are not, I would say, good choruses, but those are good verses. But you can't, again, just do verse, verse, verse. You have to, it's like those choruses are ginger between the sashimi. The sashimi is the meal. That's the sustenance. That's the heart, the meaning, the emotional resonance of the song. But you break it up with little bites of ginger. So that's usually when I'm writing songs, that's what I do. Now, sometimes I'll have a repeating line. Often, I'll go back to sometimes. Sometimes I have a repeating line. In Some Birds Return, it was Some Birds Return. And this one, it's Only I Remember Me. And so that can kind of ground a particular theme, throughout the song. But in this one, it's meant to be circular. So it begins with that sort of like ambient, gentle plucking, like you're at home and nothing is threatening melody. And then it goes on this sort of inclement adventure. And then at the end, it's like a hike. It ends where it began. It ends with that same sort of gentle melody, but the singer, after having undergone this journey, is a little changed. There's some wisdom that's been picked up along the way. There's a different perspective at the end of the song as there is in the beginning, despite the underlying melody. But there's also a repeating theme. A lot of those ideas, you can see the same words being used at the end, but they have a different meaning in the end than they do in the beginning. So it's circular, but there's change. I'm just going to show you now, or let you listen to, where there's no visual here. I'll show you the lyrics. My sonar recording, like my studio recording of the song. Chase the lowest spark, choke that river still, sail behind to find the ember, star-filled past the pale. Whoever sets the fire, step inside, and I'll begin
write the rest. Duskless shade of the arrive. I'll watch darkness devour the mazy streets. Those coiled up veins will wind like some plagiarist shapes itself when dawn's light twists the flowers' face. Those wishes fade away. Tenor sings, bright streaks scar the night. Some others a lullaby rings, and casserole laments up to the sky, ripped from the center out, crowned in 1,000 dreams. I'll begin to wonder who I am if only I remember. Emptiness found a way, grow up in our sleep. Well, its roots have delved that deep and sewn it in its cage. Broken free, flattered chest, I'll chase it to the end. Choke that hollow shadow dead and let poets do the rest. Fire, sparks lead the world so careless with our memories. And only I remember me. And only I remember me. Only I remember me.
Okay, that was my studio version of the song. It's not perfect. I sing off key still, here and there. Like the guitar is a little bit sloppy at times, but it doesn't matter. I'm not the best musician in the world. r.e.m is among the best musicians in the world. It's more important that he get his parts right than I do. All I was doing was capturing the spirit of the song as it existed in my head, and I did that well enough. You'll notice there's some parts where the lyrics are actually a little bit different. One of them, it's kind of in the middle of the song where it says ripped from the center out in that version. In the demo, I said ripped from the center heart. It sounded like I said hearts, like plural, but I was just dragging out the T, so it sounded like an S. And if you read book 1, part 2, when it comes out, chapter 122, you'll see why I was indecisive about that line, whether it should be out or heart, and I decided to go with out in the end. And there's a couple of other spots that are a little bit, there's some differences here and there, but for the most part, the song was sort of replicated and just made more whole. But then again, I sent r.e.m the Zoom demo and said, do what you want with it. I sent r.e.m also the lyrics with this one. So on Some Birds Return, I just sent him the Zoom recording and said, figure it out. And if your lyrics are different, totally fine. On this one, I sent him the lyrics and that Zoom recording. And then what he put together, like the first time I heard it, I merely thought it was great. The second time, great is not a satisfactory, it's like an inadequate description for how good. The third, I had chills the third time I listened to it. It's so good. And it begins with a wine glass. The things that r.e.m will put together on kind of a limited technology budget. Like, all right, you can't do like electric guitar. I mean, Susie's like, all right, I'll do like a shredding acoustic solo. You know, it's so good. And so there's no ado necessary. I'm just going to play it for you now.
I'll chase the lust spark and joke that river still. Sail behind the finely embers, star fell past the bowl. Whoever sets the fire, step inside. I'll begin to wonder who I am. If only I remember promises from empty breath, shelled up in a chest. Set that seed, the shadow fade, and boys write the rest. Does the shadow arrive? I'll watch the darkness devour the mazy streets. Those caught up veins unwind like some plagiarist that shapes itself. The storm light twist the flower's face. Those wishes fade away. When the sweetest tenor sings bright streak sky for night, some mother's lullaby rings cast your old laments up to the sky. Rip from the center out, crowned in 1,000 dreams. I begin to wonder who I am. Emptiness found a way to grow up in a slave. The eldest roots delve that deep to sow it in its cage. It's broken free and fled chase. I'll chase it to the end. Choke that hollow shadow dead, and let poets do the rest. From out of the fire, my sparks sweep the world's soul. Careless with the memories, only I remember me. Only I remember me. Only I remember me. Only I remember. Only I remember me.
That was Lum's version. And like, if you don't have goosebumps, like maybe not full on goosebumps the first time you listen to it, like pelican, but some sort of like roll up your sleeve and like bird bumps of some kind, rewind the video, go back to the beginning of Lum's song. And like, if you didn't have headphones, go get them. If your headphones are bad, get better ones. Close your eyes and just listen attentively, be present and listen. It's so good. And then what you were seeing if your eyes are open, what you were seeing in the background Lum lives in Japan, and that's like a little bit of surrounding area, around where he lives. And then his recording studio, his instruments in his recording studio. And in that studio, the map, you've probably seen this before. If you've been with my channel for a while, that's the map of the book. Or if you read the book, whatever, that's the map, and that's the real painting that he did that's in his studio. Now, something you've never seen before, nobody has ever seen before except for Lum and me, we're the only two people in the universe until just now, is the original sketches of that map. In the days, years ago, when we were going back and forth on the design of it, those are the original sketches. There's also some additional sketches in there that nobody's ever seen, before, and yeah, I don't want to spoil what this is. I'll just call it foreshadowing. But that's it. Now, we may do songs together in the future. So that was Wrath. We've previously done Some Birds Return. I have Mirth and Grief. Now, Grief is maybe 75% written. There's some placeholder spots in the lyrics and maybe some structure that I'm gonna change a little bit, but I have most of Grief written. Mirth, all I have is a riff. Marie and I sometimes play music at night. Like, she sits on, there's a piano over here. She'll play piano and I will play guitar. And just like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, it's obviously capoed at the fifth. I have this little plucking progression on guitar, and she came up with this like little counterpoint, like beautiful melody, and they just move. And so that's a good foundation for Mirth, but it's just a riff, something to build the song on. I don't know how Lum and I would exhibit our, release our music in the future. If we're going to do it the same way where I do a Zoom recording, send it to him, and we do something like this again, or if we just come together, file sharing, and write songs whole, just one version of the song, I don't know. But there's even a couple of additional songs that we have planned beyond Some Birds Return, Wrath, Grief, and Mirth. And maybe in the future, maybe when like book 1 part 3 comes out, that's the final part of book 1, we could do like an EP of all of those songs. I don't know. This isn't a promise. This is just a probability that something more is coming. And something else I would love to do in the future is have a salon that, like, not like a hairstylist's, not like that kind of stuff, but like a Gertrude Stein writing salon that's just for the arts. That's like grunge value arts, anti-corporation, anti-AI of any sort of influence whatsoever, the inhumane part of that. Contrived, commercialized, heartless pseudo art, anti all of that, and just start this little grunge culture for painting and for music and for writing. I would love to do that someday, and Lum would be my first member to join that. But that's it for today. I hope your arts are like as if from that kind of salon. I hope your arts have a grunge aesthetic and value and heart. Whether it's the chorus, whether it's the verse, I don't care, as long as you connect with it in a very humane, emotional, authentic way. Okay. Until next time,